For many years, gospel music enthusiasts have followed Guy Penrod's life and extraordinary voice with deep admiration. Known not only for his powerful and soul-stirring vocals, but also for his calm demeanor and unwavering faith, Guy became a symbol of grace and devotion on and off the stage. However, in recent times, whispers about his sudden absence have begun to grow louder. Fans everywhere started asking, "Where is Guy Penrod now? Why has he stepped away from the spotlight? Has something changed in his life?" These questions lingered without clear answers, until now. After years of silence, his wife, Angie Clark, has finally opened up, sharing the truth about their journey, the challenges they faced, and the reasons behind Guy's retreat from public life. Her heartfelt words have both comforted and surprised those who deeply respect the Penrod family. As time passed, something began to shift quietly in Guy's public presence. The once familiar stage lights dimmed and his appearances grew rare. A man once admired for his steady presence suddenly seemed distant. Fans began to notice the silence. Was he unwell? Had he retired suddenly? Was something wrong behind the scenes? Without any official statement, speculation ran wild. Social media platforms, blogs, and online videos buzzed with theories, some thoughtful, others entirely unfounded. Still, the Penrod family remained silent, refusing to feed the rumor mill. For years, Angie Clark, Guy's wife and lifelong companion, chose to stay quiet, protecting their family's privacy. But now, breaking that long silence, Angie has come forward with sincerity and emotion to share the real story of what happened, why Guy withdrew from the limelight, and how their lives have changed behind closed doors. This is not a story of scandal or controversy. It is a tender account of faith, love, and quiet strength. The truth, as Angie reveals, is far more human and beautiful than any of the rumors that once surrounded them. Guy Penrod's legacy in gospel music is truly remarkable. From the very beginning, his voice carried a rare warmth, sincerity, and spiritual depth that moved countless hearts. He wasn't merely a performer, he was a man on a mission, using his music to share messages of hope and divine love. As the lead vocalist of the world-renowned Gaither Vocal Band, Guy became famous not only for his incredible singing, but also for his iconic long hair and humble nature. Unlike many artists chasing fame and spotlight, he stayed true to his principles, choosing a balanced life rooted in faith, family, and service rather than celebrity culture. Throughout his career, Guy represented something much greater than himself. Whether he was performing before thousands or speaking softly in a church, everything he did was grounded in love. Love for his faith, his music, and his family. To many, he wasn't just a gospel singer, but a beacon of spiritual truth, strength, and peace. Yet over time, fans began noticing subtle changes. His once regular performances slowed down, his social media posts stopped, and there were no new albums, tours, or even interviews. Naturally, concern grew. People wondered, had he retired without saying anything? Was he struggling with health issues? A few even spread baseless claims that he had lost his voice or faced personal hardships. As often happens online, speculation turned into wild theories. But through it all, the Penrods stayed silent, neither confirming nor denying anything, leaving fans both puzzled and worried. Finally, Angie Clark decided it was time to speak. In a heartfelt and composed message, she revealed what had truly been happening behind the scenes. Her words were full of compassion and truth, not drama. Angie explained that there was nothing scandalous or tragic about Guy's absence. Instead, he had simply reached a point in his life where he needed to rest and reflect. The constant traveling, public demands, and the weight of being a spiritual role model had begun to take a toll. Though Guy wasn't battling any serious illness, he felt deeply drained, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. It wasn't the singing that wore him out. It was the endless pressure to always be on. According to Angie, Guy began spending more time at home, focusing on prayer, meditation, and reconnecting with both God and himself. He wanted to rediscover the purpose that had first inspired him to create music. It was, as she described, a quiet and deliberate choice to embrace peace over pressure and meaning over noise. Most of the rumors circulating online were simply misunderstandings from people unaware of the full picture. Over time, Guy started to heal, not from illness, but from exhaustion. He found joy once again in life's simplest moments. He began mentoring young gospel singers, guiding them not only in performance but also in faith and character. Even away from the spotlight, his influence continued to shine through others. Angie shared that this period drew them closer than ever as a couple. Living on their peaceful farm, far from the chaos of fame, they spent their days in quiet reflection, talking, praying, and finding serenity they hadn't known in years. Guy also began writing new music, this time not for commercial release, but purely for personal spiritual expression. These intimate moments became some of the most beautiful chapters in their marriage, a reminder that love and faith mean more than any applause. In her message, Angie also addressed Guy's loyal fans directly, expressing heartfelt gratitude to all who had supported them, prayed for them, and continued to show love during their silence. Though they couldn't respond to every message, Angie assured that each one had touched their hearts. She gently reminded everyone that public figures are still human beings, with emotions, limits, and personal battles. Just because someone stands in the spotlight doesn't mean every part of their life should be public. In the end, Angie's words painted a portrait not of withdrawal, but of renewal. Guy Penrod's story is not one of fading fame, but of rediscovering peace, faith, and purpose beyond the stage lights. His legacy continues, not only in his timeless music, but in the lives he has quietly inspired through his strength, humility, and unwavering devotion to God and family. Even though the outside world may not fully understand, Angie remarked that sometimes people need distance in order to grow, heal, and reflect. She explained that Guy had spent time reading many of the fan letters that poured in, and he was deeply touched by the concern and kindness people had shown. "Even in the silence, he senses your love," she said softly. Today, Guy Penrod is very much alive at 61 years old. He's simply living a different kind of life. He hasn't stopped performing altogether. He's just stepped away from the bright lights of the stage to embrace a quieter, more intentional existence. Angie views this new chapter not as an ending, but as a beautiful beginning. Guy's happiness now stems not from perfection, but from purpose, from choosing a meaningful, peaceful life over one defined by constant pressure. As Angie concluded her heartfelt message, she left her followers with a powerful statement. Fame may fade, but faith remains. Her words resonated deeply with fans, reminding them that sometimes the greatest act of love is expressed not through noise or spectacle, but through silence, truth, and grace. The very tools she used to gently dispel the rumors that had spread online. The story of Guy Penrod stands as a reminder of a quieter, truer form of success. In a world where worth is often measured by noise, attention, and visibility, his journey represents something far more profound, a devotion to faith, humility, and humanity. For years, Guy performed on some of the most renowned gospel stages around the globe. His voice was not only powerful but also comforting, like a steady hand in uncertain times. His long silver hair and calm presence became symbols of wisdom and serenity in an age that rarely slows down. People didn't just admire his music, they trusted him. His words carried the kind of truth that comes from deep faith rather than fame. Through his songs, he offered healing. Through his presence, he brought peace. But as time passed, things began to change. The man who had always been smiling, singing, and serving slowly started to step back from the spotlight. There were no grand announcements or dramatic headlines, just a gradual, quiet retreat. Fans noticed the absence. Questions began to circulate, and when they went unanswered, speculation filled the void. Some worried he was ill. Others assumed he had retired. As silence persisted, social media became flooded with unverified claims and rumors. Blogs and videos turned whispers into wild stories. Yet, throughout all the noise, the Penrod family remained silent. That silence, though misunderstood by many, wasn't empty. It was filled with reflection, renewal, and quiet strength. For most of Guy's career, his wife and lifelong partner, Angie Clark, had stayed out of the public eye. She was never one to seek fame. She found joy in supporting her husband behind the scenes. But as the rumors grew louder and more invasive, she felt it was time to speak up, not to argue or defend, but to lovingly share the truth. In a heartfelt statement, Angie revealed that Guy's disappearance wasn't caused by any hidden illness or personal crisis. Rather, it stemmed from a deep exhaustion, not with life or music, but with the constant demand to always be on. After years of carrying the weight of expectations from the industry, churches, and fans, Guy found himself spiritually and emotionally drained. Though he never publicly faltered, the relentless pace had taken its toll. Angie explained that Guy began to feel a profound spiritual calling to slow down, to breathe, to reflect, and to find peace in the stillness that fame rarely allows. This decision, Angie emphasized, was not an act of weakness, but one of great strength, the courage to resist external pressure and choose peace over performance. With his family and faith at the center, Guy began spending more time at home on their farm. He wasn't hiding. He was healing. He wasn't quitting. He was recalibrating. His days were now shaped by prayer, quiet reflection, and mentoring young gospel musicians. Away from the stage, he transformed into a teacher, a listener, and a spiritual guide for the next generation. Angie spoke tenderly about how this new phase deepened their bond as a couple. Their marriage had always been strong, but without the constant chaos of public life, it became richer, more grounded. They finally had time, real time, to talk, to pray, and simply to be together. They shared small, sacred moments that didn't need to be posted online. Morning coffee on the porch, late-night prayers, and laughter that echoed through peaceful silence. Those quiet times reminded them both why they began this journey in the first place. In her message, Angie also expressed her gratitude to Guy's supporters. She thanked them for their patience, prayers, and enduring love. She acknowledged that staying silent for so long had been difficult but necessary. Sometimes, she said, silence is not avoidance, it's protection. Space is needed for healing, she wrote. Silence is not a sign of weakness, but a choice to guard what truly matters. She reminded everyone that even public figures are human beings. They get tired, overwhelmed, and need rest like anyone else. Her sincerity touched countless hearts. She reminded fans that behind the music stands a man of faith, a loving husband, a devoted father, someone who deserves the same compassion he's always shown others. Guy Penrod, now 61, may not be headlining concerts or releasing albums at the same pace, but his heart still sings. His devotion to faith remains unshaken, and though he leads a quieter life, his influence continues to ripple through the world of gospel music. When Angie shared a quote from Guy himself, it captured the essence of everything. Fame fades, but faith endures. That single sentence defines his journey. By stepping away from the stage, Guy hasn't left behind success. He's found something even greater: a renewed connection with God and a deeper bond with his family. The story of Guy and Angie Penrod is more than a love story or a career tale. It's a spiritual reminder. It teaches that slowing down is not failure, and saying no to the world can sometimes be the truest way to say yes to your soul. Their journey embodies lessons of rest, faith, renewal, and love in a culture obsessed with speed, noise, and visibility. This is a story that doesn't need fame or headlines, only truth. In the end, we are left with the image of a man who chose wisdom over anxiety, serenity over pressure, and purpose over popularity. A man who continues to inspire even in silence. And beside him, a woman who has remained steadfast, graceful, loyal, and strong. Together, Guy Penrod and Angie Clark have shown the world that the greatest music in life isn't always sung on stage. Sometimes it's found in the stillness, in love's quiet rhythm, in the peace of faith, and in the gentle harmony of a life beautifully and purposefully lived.